Always great catching up with my next guest, the number 5 ranked heavyweight Curtis Razor Blaydes, back on the program, fresh off of coming from Utah, who's you're at the fights this weekend for UFC 307. Curtis, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How was the fight? How was the atmosphere? It looked like a pretty good card and obviously a pretty entertaining main event.
I think it was one of the better cards I've been able to watch, like personally. I like the undercard. My buddy Austin Hubbard, he was on the undercard, and I usually don't like to talk about the judges because that's always like controversial. But I think there was like 3 or 4 like bad split decisions, and I think Austin. I watched it. I thought he won that fight.
Okay.
So yeah, I think the judging was wasn't the best. Wasn't the best judging. But besides that, I think it was a great card. We got to see a lot of full fights. There weren't that many finishes. Even the main event that went into like what, 4th round.
Yeah. Oh no, the main event I thought was one of the highlights of the show. Khalil Rountree, big underdog. A lot of people felt like he didn't deserve that title shot. What did you think of his performance? Because it made the fight entertaining. You look at the odds and the odds makers and the pundits and all the people going in. They're like, oh, it's going to be another quick finish for Pereira. But Khalil made it a dogfight. He actually, I think, won a couple rounds.
I had him up. Him up going into that 4th round, but I could also see that those lead leg calf kicks were starting to eat him up, and then the jabs, he started landing jabs, and you can almost like see it happening. And I'm sure Alex, that's what he wanted. He took him into deep waters, but Khalil, he did great. I think he did a lot better than a lot of pundits, and I'm sure Vegas expected.
Yeah.
If I were him, you hold your head up high. Like,
yeah,
we don't ever. There's no such thing as moral victories, but he made good money. He put on a good performance, and that has to be the toughest fight Alex has had that he actually won.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And Jan Blachowicz, I know, was close too, but just the fact that like people were counting Khalil out. I know in the Jan fight, it was a little bit closer on the odds going into that one. But you're right. Like, I think Khalil's stock certainly went up and it looked great. I know they asked Pereira after the fight, what's next? I think a lot of people want to see him fight Magomed Ankalaev if Ankalaev can get past Alexander Rakic. But there's always these fans that want to see the Aspinall fight, obviously, too. What do you think about this? I know I've asked you about this before, but I think, if he does beat Ankalaev, I think people do want to see him move up. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, if he beats Ankalaev, then that'll be like what, 4 title defenses? Yeah. I think after that, and it's not really an issue if you start taking super fights.
Yeah,
it's only an issue when you get the belt and then immediately want to bump up. He's done what he's supposed to do. He's almost cleaned out that division, and I get it. Him versus Aspinall, that's a hell of a fight. I know I'd watch it. And he's got a shot. The only issue is the wrestling. Like, I know he worked with Glovers, so I'm sure he's putting in the time and energy, and he is Brazilian. So I'm just gonna assume that he already has like a base of jiu-jitsu that's always gonna be there. We just don't have. He hasn't been forced to like use it, and that's why people want to see him against Ankalaev. We want to see if he can handle a light heavyweight who can wrestle. Because if you can't handle a light heavyweight who can wrestle, I don't know what you're gonna do with a heavyweight who knows how to wrestle.
Do you think there's a possibility, though? Let's say Rakic goes up there and upsets, Ankalaev, like at UFC 308. I don't think you could really. I mean, maybe they give him the title shot, but then he just got knocked out by Yuri Prohaska. Do you think there's a possibility that if Rakic wins, maybe we see Pereira go up to heavyweight sooner than we think?
He could skip it.
Yeah,
just because, like you said, Rakic, he doesn't have the resume that demands a title shot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's quickly talk. It's never fun to talk about a loss, Curtis, but I know I mentioned him there, Tom Aspinall. You went into enemy territory again. Didn't come out victorious. What are your biggest takeaways from that fight with Tom Aspinall earlier this year?
Starts fast. That's the biggest thing. That's what we knew heading into it. And I kind of tossed out the game plan. We had a game plan that I was gonna engage with the wrestling and engage with the clinch, but I touched him early on and adrenaline kicked in, and I just tossed out the game plan. There's no excuse. He was the better man that night. All the praise goes to him. He landed the shot. He pounced. He got the TKO, and I mean, if I gotta lose, it's not like he's a bum. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, again, I know it's you guys have, like, even after the first fight, you guys had the beer and stuff. You have a lot of respect for Tom. It's not an opponent like you don't like or anything like that. So, you know, if you're going to have a loss, better to have it against a guy like that. When did you get back to training? Because if I remember correctly, when we spoke before the fight, you were going to go see the Olympics, were you not? Because it was close by where you were in the UK.
yeah, we did not go to the Olympics because there was a bunch of like we were hearing just stories from a couple of my friends who were on the wrestling team, how it was, for lack of a better terminology, a shit show.
Mhm.
Like the, the security, the people, they say that the people were really like rude. Like, you could feel they did not want you there. So just based off all that, I was like, I don't want to deal with that. Obviously, I just lost, so I'm not in the best mood anyway. I was just
Yeah.
like, me and my girlfriend, we just hung out in uh London for like another week, and that was fun. That was fun.
Good. Well, at least you got to enjoy a bit of the UK after the fact. When did you get back to training, like, full time? Obviously, I know you got finished in the fight, so probably not rushing back to training. But when did you get back, like, training full time?
Well, I've been in and out. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of traveling, so I I've been in and out since like September 11th, and ever since then it's been like 2 weeks in, and then I go to New York, or I go to Chicago, or then another 2 weeks, and then something else, and then I went to I'm I'm not ashamed. Like, a lot of guys my age are losing their hair. I was losing my hair at the top. Went to Bosley's. So I got a hair transplant at the top, so I can't really work out. I got that on September 20th,
Yeah.
so I'll be able to fully like use my head and all that and get hit and stuff until October 28th.
Oh, gotcha.
But
Okay, so you got, like,
I
till the
can,
end of the month, basically. Yeah.
yeah, I can sweat though. I'll be back in the gym next week doing my strength and conditioning at the very least.
Yeah, and it's probably for the best anyways. No need to rush back in there. The heavyweight division's kind of in a weird spot right now anyways, with this whole waiting to see what happens with Jon and Stipe, and then obviously, you know, we got that Ciryl
That's why I
Gane.
decided to do it,
Yeah,
because I knew I have time.
yeah,
There's no rush. Like, if I had not done it in September, probably wouldn't have done it.
right.
So I had to do it. Yeah.
That makes sense. So if we could kind of ballpark right now, is it even too early to say a return date? Like, are you thinking maybe like the spring? Is that too far? Or when are you thinking your next, like, getting back in there?
I don't think it'll be this year though.
Oh, no. I wouldn't think this year. I meant like the following spring, like 2025, like March, April, around there. Is that kind of what you're thinking of?
Yeah, maybe February, but yeah, it'll definitely be after the holidays.
Yeah. No, for sure. And again, we got some big stuff coming up, and we might as well get into it. I know it's kind of obvious on paper to a lot of people, but this Jon Jones and Stipe fight, it's officially booked. I'm going to knock on wood, Curtis, because we got to just hope this fight happens. Otherwise, we're going to wait another probably year for it to get rebooked. So just your thoughts on the fight and how you think it plays out.
I mean, who knows? Like, Stipe's been gone for so long. Like, the rust, it might be a factor. That's something you gotta think about. And like, I've been hearing that, like, whenever Stipe shows up at like an event or a press conference or meet and greet or anything like that, people have been saying he's got like a limp. He doesn't look healthy. He looks smaller. I don't know. Right now, based on all that, like I go John. And
Yeah.
like it's heavyweight, so I wouldn't. It's right now it's still 50-50. But if I were allowed to bet, I would put like 100 on John. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't you think too, like, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm at the point where I just like, I want the fight to happen because you know that they're going to try and rebook it again. Like, it's like almost stalling everything. And like, people have this idea of like, oh, Jones and Pereira, Jones and Aspinall. Like, I know Aspinall is supposed to be the backup. Like, I don't think that that's going to be fulfilled if one of those guys is out, knock on wood. Like, I can't see it happening. What do you think of that?
I don't see it happening because they're both going to have not an excuse, but the same like reasoning, like, oh, Aspinall's not worth the money. He's not. He's not worth that. We're not going to get paid the same as if I were fighting my original opponent. And I know they've already agreed to it. That's why Aspinall's the backup. But yeah, I don't. If either of them gets injured or whatever week of, it's just gonna get scrapped. They're just
Yeah.
gonna scrap it.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, we just want to see the fight happen so that we can kind of move on and see what happens. And I think a lot of people believe that the winner of Ciryl Gane and Alexander Volkov, which by the way got moved, was supposed to happen at UFC 308. They moved it to UFC 310. Do you believe that the winner of that will fight Tom next?
Yeah, I like they the winner that has the clearest path because it's not a guarantee. Because like you said, the whole John and Alex, you got that's always going to be there. But as the actual legitimate current heavyweights, yeah, the winner of that should get the next title shot.
Yeah, I think so too. Who wins that fight? I think Gane's the favorite right now. Maybe that's changed since they've moved the fight. But who would you favor in that fight with Gane and Volkov, having fought Volkov?
I know Gane already beat Volkov, but for some reason, I just think that was an off day for Volkov. I think he's better than that performance he had that fight. It almost reminds me of his performance against Aspinall, like when he got taken down and just straight armbar. He's better than that. I just think sometimes, and I've had this issue also, like where you just slow start. You got to get it going. I think if he's at his best and Gane's at his best with the reach he has and just how heavy he is, and the fact that Gane isn't really going to present any like takedown threat, I go Volkov.
Mm-hmm. And so if Volkov wins, do you think he has a shot in the rematch against Aspinall, or would you favor Aspinall if it was Volkov or Gane?
I mean, I would still favor Aspinall, but I think it would be a better fight than the first one.
So what are your days looking like now? You mentioned you have the traveling, you can't train a lot. Like, how are you filling things up? Is it just being a dad full time, or like what are you getting up to?
Um, like I said, it's been traveling. I'm setting up meet and greets.
Oh, cool.
I a meet and greet at a dispensary out here in like 2 weeks. Just taking care of business, like figuring out. I like to get a house, so I'm talking with a financial advisor later on this afternoon.
Nice.
Just adulting.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, like with this time off that you've had too, like you mentioned getting the hair transplant and all that stuff. Is it also a time where you're kind of thinking more in the business side? Like you mentioned the meet and greets, that's a good way to make a little extra money. Like, is this a good time for you to kind of think beyond fighting? Cause you're not going to fight forever, right?
Yeah. No. That's what when I'm not fighting, I think about what do I do after fighting a lot. I do not have the solid answer yet. Like I've always said, I want to remain involved with MMA, but I also understand that's not like the biggest money makers. So also, I've been getting into stocks and bonds. That's one of the reasons I'm meeting with the advisor. We've been talking about that, and also my brother and my dad back home in Chicago. They've been trying to get me to like buy into houses. Well,
Oh,
not
cool.
houses. They own like buildings and things like that. And I'm like, I really didn't understand it. So that's what made me apprehensive about it. But the more I'm starting to learn about it, the more I think I like to do it.
Doesn't I know Neil Magny does a bit of that. I don't know if it's like selling houses, but he does like fixing them up and stuff, and it's gone quite well for him. Our last interview, he was telling me like how he's fixing houses up, which is great.
He's like the master of that.
Yeah.
I think he owns like 4 houses.
Wow.
He owned the house that I used to live in with
Yeah,
Austin.
You and Austin used to live in the house. I remember that.
So yeah, he's the homeowner, like the master, and he has all the skills. He's like Mr. Fix It. He can do pipes, he can do floors. And if he doesn't already have the skill, he he's able to pick it up really fast. It's actually he makes you feel like a piece of shit because you don't have as many skills as he does.
Right. But I think that's most people. Like I'll call someone if I need something fixed. I'm not handy at all, so I'll call my dad. You know.
I call Neil.
There you go. You call Neil. You have Neil around. And last question before we get out of here. Playing any video games? I know you're watching your Bears in the NFL. Like, what else are you getting up to on downtime these days?
Well, the Bears, fantasy football, Madden. I don't know if you've heard of this game called Space Marine.
No, I haven't.
I play that.
Okay.
Well, I just got it, but I do plan on playing that. It's based around this universe called Warhammer. I read a lot of the books,
Oh, cool.
and this would be my first like video game in that universe. But besides that, not really doing too much.
No. It's good. But hey, you got to enjoy the time, man. You put a lot of effort and time into your UFC career. It's good to just sit back, I'm sure, and especially with the division right now, it's kind of in a bit of a standstill with this Jon fight. You mentioned fantasy football. Are you in the same league as that one with Gaethje? Because I remember Gaethje had to wear the dress that one year.
Yeah. He's doing a little better than last year when he ended up with the dress. But I'm actually 5-0 in that league.
Nice. Who else is in the league with you? What other fighters are in there?
Have you heard of? He fights for Bellator. Have you heard of Archie?
Oh, Archie Conglin. Yeah. I know Archie. I was at one of his fights. I think it was I can't remember which one, but yeah.
He's in the league, and also Grant Neal.
Grant Neal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Curtis, appreciate this, man. I'll let you get back to enjoying a life that doesn't involve getting punched in the face just in the meantime. If there's anyone you want to thank, though, any sponsors, any social media, anything like that, I'll give you the last word.
Well, yeah, I really want to give a shout out to my management, Vayner Sports Management. They're the ones who hooked up the Bosley thing, hooked it up for free, and they also hooked me up with this organization called AIS, and it's an organization for people with stutters. And I was able to go to an event in New York, and I was able to meet a bunch of other people that have stutters, or they know someone else that has a stutter. It was just like a fundraiser, and I really enjoyed the experience, and I appreciate my management for reaching out and finding organizations like that really speak to me.